Have you ever wanted to shove a rock down your silly string slinger? Neither have I, but sometimes Mother Nature forces that endeavor upon you, and when I was 13, I was unfortunate enough to live through this experience. So before I begin filling you up with my sweet succulent information, do me a favor and get your fat ass comfortable. Maybe pour yourself a nice cool glass of melanated milk, ask your wheelchair-bound cousin to give you an oiled up foot massage, and spread peanut butter on your balls, then take the cone off of your neighbor's Rottweiler, because I'm about to tell you the story of the most painfully traumatic thing I've ever endured in my entire existence. It all started on October 10th, 2018. About a month prior, I'd finally convinced my father to let me download GTA 5 after asking him for over 5 whole years. So after my relatively normal day at school came to a closure, I decided to pop a boner and give GTA a proper loader. Basically, I just booted up Grand Theft Auto. Now, even all these years later, I still remember exactly what I was doing and where I was in the game when the worst moment of my life occurred. I was playing as Franklin, and had just finished racing an NPC on a bicycle at the beach, when all of a sudden I started to get a very strange feeling in my side. Specifically my back right side. It started off just being uncomfortable, but as the minutes passed, it started to become increasingly painful. So painful, in fact, that I was lying on my bed in the fetal position praying to God that this pain goes away. Now picture this. A 13-year-old was just playing their favorite game when all of a sudden it feels like they just got shot by a fucking 12-gauge shotgun in the right side of the ribcage. I started to panic a little bit, as you could imagine. So I get my happy ass up and start Smeagol walking over to my banister to yell down to my parents. Now I don't exactly remember how I sounded when I was yelling, but I imagine it went something like this. Because my dad came running up the stairs like he was promised a $100 Lowe's gift card or some shit. And once he saw the state I was in, he was adamant we go to the emergency room. Now usually I'd be against this. I mean, especially now, because who the fuck can afford the ER? But I would always try my best to avoid doctors at all costs. I don't exactly know why. I guess I just wanted to handle shit myself. So on the car ride to the hospital, I started to gradually get more and more pissed off with every red light we hit, because I felt like I was literally perishing every second that went by. Once we arrived to the quote emergency room, and I say the emergency room in quotes because they may as well call that shit the non-urgency room. Because once we checked in, I ended up sitting on the floor of the ER's lobby for 15 fucking minutes, seething in pain. I was rocking back and forth on my hands and knees, looking like Diddy's ghost was having his way with me, whilst I was literally crying in pain. I'm pretty sure my parents started to think I was about to turn into a fucking Walking Dead walker, because I was making inhuman movements at this point. Finally, a nurse came out and put me on a hospital bed. They brought me to a room asking me a couple questions that I could barely answer due to my lack of giving a fuck about anything that wasn't getting rid of this ungodly pain. While they were getting the CAT scan and x-rays ready, the nurse started pumping me with this lovely liquid called hydrogen chloride, which is basically just water that your veins drink instead of your mouth. After a couple minutes, the pain started to die down quite drastically, and when I was actually able to speak again, I began explaining the entire story to the nurse as well as my parents. At one point, I very seriously asked this poor nurse if I was experiencing a chronic case of the brain AIDS. Now keep in mind, I had no idea what AIDS was at the time. I was not aware that you contract AIDS from sexual contact with men, so this obviously made everyone giggle up a storm, and later on it ended up becoming a family joke. After explaining my symptoms, they were almost certain that my appendix had just shit the bed, so they gave me a pussy scan. I mean CAT scan. But after the scan came back normal, they were a tad bit confused. We ended up leaving after the doctors told me to stay hydrated and report on anything else I may experience. And boy oh boy were there many more experiences to be had. Over the next 2 days, my pain came inside of me in waves. There'd be about 30 minutes of absolute agony, followed by 30 minutes of pure bliss. Okay, it wasn't actually bliss, but at least it was bearable. The only positive part about this pain was that it allowed me to skip school. After 2 days of not getting any better, we booked a doctor's appointment. There, I was forced to piss in a cup where I was then diagnosed with a urinary tract infection. Now this may sound like bad news, but I was actually quite happy with this result, because the other 2 things the doctor said it could be was a kidney stone and rib cancer. And I don't know about you, but I'd rather not have cancer. Little did I know I would give myself eye cancer 4 years later once I installed Overwatch 2. Now the doctors gave me pills I had to take 4 times a day in order to combat this piss infection, and normally that wouldn't be a problem, but for some reason these pills were the size of my fucking eyeball. This shit was a whole ass jawbreaker, and not only was it massive, and I mean massive, but it also tasted like what I imagined the aftermath of 2 girls 1 cup to taste like. This was the nastiest massivest pill I have ever taken. Every single time I would attempt to take this pill, I would projectile vomit it straight into the porcelain. I think I managed to get 3 whole pills down the entire week I was supposed to take them. And you know what's funny about that week? I was was still suffering incomprehensible amount of agony from my right backside. There was one point where my mom bought me a heating pad for the sole purpose of me laying on it, just for me to accidentally burn myself after lying on it for hours at a time, for the ever so slight amount of relief it gave me. After I ran out of Molly Percocets, I headed back to the doc's office, and after I told them it hadn't gotten even a little bit better, they were pretty much like, nah man, you're chilling, Jet. It's probably just a spreaded urinary tract infection. Just keep taking them poop pills, blood. I don't know why I made the doc a gangster, but you get the point. They still believed it could be a kidney stone, so I got scheduled for a renal ultrasound a few days down the road. And once that day came, we headed for the hospital. But this wasn't just your normal level 10 in Rise of Kingdoms hospital. Nah, this was the #1 rated children's hospital in my state. So I was quite confident we were gonna get this shit figured out. Once I arrived to the waiting area, our nurse came out and greeted herself. She was an interesting fella to say the least. She had the attitude of your middle school principal, but nonetheless she filled us in on the details we needed to get this ultrasound. Now you see, in order to get a renal ultrasound, you need to have a full bladder. That way they can see more stuff in your bladder, I guess. Okay, I don't exactly know why you need a full bladder, but them's the rules. There was a bit of a problem though. I had just tinkled the turnip not even 2 minutes prior to meeting this nurse, so I was completely drained. And not only was I drained, but the pain started to come back as I was attempting to waterboard myself. I wanted to get this ultrasound done as soon as possible, that way they could fix my shit and I wouldn't have to deal with this torture anymore. Now it took about an hour and a half and 4 full bottles of water before I managed to get a full bladder, not even fibbing. I tried to do it when I was slightly full of piss, and the nurse pretty much just told me to fuck off, so every 5 minutes this nurse would come out to the lobby asking me if I'm full yet, acting like I'm not currently fighting World War fucking 7 with myself trying to not keel over and die. It's like this nurse just lacked social cues. But finally, I got full enough to take the ultrasound, and Jesus Christ have mercy on my unholy soul. This fucking nurse was Satan herself. During an ultrasound, a nurse will push this handheld device against your oiled up groin for a few minutes until she gathers all the intel she needs. My nurse, however, being built like a multi-world champion sumo wrestler, was practically penetrating me with this fucking scanner. I was edging pissing myself. Okay, strange phrasing. I was close to whizzing my britches, but thankfully right when I was about to inflict mass harm to this nurse, she finished. And after a couple of minutes, she brought us the pictures. And there was a 5mm kidney stone right at the end of my ureter. Now for those of you who aren't familiar with human anatomy, the ureter is the small tube that carries urine from your kidney to your bladder, but the ureter has a tiny problem. Literally, they're very tiny. The average ureter is 4mm long, and if you remember what I said a minute ago, my kidney stone was 5mm long, and in case you're watching this from your mother's womb, 5 is a bigger number than 4, meaning my stone was larger than my fucking ureter. The stone was scraping against my ureter as urine flowing through the tube was pushing it slowly across. This caused a backup of urine, leading to the urine infection I had. Thankfully, however, since the stone was nearing the end of my ureter, this meant that it should be over soon. But before I could leave the hospital, the nurse's boss called and asked us to go down to his office. Once we got down there, he gave us a briefing on different paths we could take to combat this ureter intruder. The quickest option being something called shockwave therapy, where as you could probably guess, they place a device over your side and deliver shockwaves to try and break up the stone. Or, if we didn't want to pay our entire life savings, he could just give me drugs and I could pass it naturally. And since the doc gave us a time frame on when the stone would presumably pass, we decided on the latter. All I had to do was get through 1 more week of AIDS. So after a day or two of still dying, I decided to take this singular pill the doctor gave me. Now when he gave me this pill, I was a little confused, because it was literally only 1 pill. He said to only take it if I was in unbearable pain, and that it would last for a whole day. And well, since it was nighttime and I was struggling to sleep, I decided now would be the perfect time to take this angelic capsule. And holy shit, not even 20 minutes after swallowing this thing, I started practically levitating. I went from feeling the worst pain I've ever felt to experiencing the greatest feeling I've ever felt. My face was at a natural smile. I was lying on my chair, but it didn't even feel like I was touching it. I was actually soaring through the clouds. I couldn't have been What the fuck? I couldn't have been awake for more than 15 minutes until I slept the longest I've ever slept in my entire life. I woke up the next day, which was a Sunday, at like 2:30 in the afternoon, still feeling better than I ever had. It turns out the doctor actually gave me a morphine pill, which is a form of heroin, so I've been a heroin addict ever since I was 13 years old. But after I woke up, I went downstairs to get a glass of water to combat the severe cotton mouth I was experiencing. And over the next 3 or 4 days, I was actually able to go to school because I wasn't in crazy amounts of pain anymore. It was still painful, don't get me wrong, but it was a bearable amount of pain for once. A couple days later, on a Friday morning after I woke up, I took my regular morning piss. And I forgot to mention, once I got my ultrasound results back, the nurse gave me a paper funnel with a net that I had to piss into to hopefully catch the stone, and that way they could run a test to see what caused it. So as I was half wakenly whizzing into this piss-caked funnel, I suddenly felt a pop in my schlong. I instantly fully woke up and looked down into the funnel and saw something other than piss for once. It was a tiny little beige pebble. My first thought was, no way that's my stone. Cause you see, I called my poppy, which is what I call my grandfather on my dad's side, alright? It's not fucking weird. And he said that when he had his kidney stone, it felt like he was pulling a cactus through his cock. I'm being serious, those are his exact words. Not exactly comforting, but it's what I was expecting. So I was confused when I just casually pissed out a rock with no pain whatsoever. Nonetheless, we went back to the clinic to get this stone tested, and after a quick analysis, it was deemed to in fact be my kidney stone. More specifically, it was a calcium oxalate kidney stone, which was formed due to the ridiculous amount of sweet tea that I drank. And when I say a ridiculous amount, I mean a retarded amount. I had at least 4 Lipton peach iced tea bottles a day, and that was the minimum. I would have up to 6 teas a day on a regular basis. And since I wasn't a big milk or orange juice drinker, I didn't get that much calcium, leading to a 5mm devilish rock being brewed in my kidney while I was blissfully unaware. And from that day on, I vowed to never drink black tea again, and resorted to only drinking green tea. But I barely even drank green tea either, because I was so petrified that I would have to endure that level of pain again, that I stuck to drinking only water for 2 years straight. And after I knew for certain what I could and could not drink, I slowly started incorporating different beverages into my rotation. And once I learned that Coke has a low chance of causing stones, I began my everlasting addiction to Coca-Cola. And that was the story of the massive kidney stone I had when I was a 13-year-old youngin'. For about a year post stone passing, I had occasional pain that scared me, but it ended up just being scar tissue in my ureter, and eventually healed. A month after this ordeal happened, I actually made a video explaining the entire situation and posted it to this channel. Now the video is unlisted, so the only people who can see it are you pussies watching this video. So if you're interested in listening to 13-year-old Noxylicious ramble for 10 minutes about an awful experience, then click the video on your screen now. And thank you all so much for watching. It means the world y'all care enough to watch my videos to the end. So yeah, love you Schnookies, and I'll see y'all later.